A shocking corruption scandal in Baltimore. 7 police officers indicted on federal charges accused of stealing money from innocent people.
Ski! Hold up, pump your brakes. Now, I wouldn't say these people was innocent. Most of the people they took the money from was drug dealers. But let's go on.
ABC's Lindsay Davis joins us now with all of those details. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, Amy. We've heard similar storylines before on the big screen and on primetime television. But now these real-life officers have been charged with abusing their badges, of being corrupt to the core, allegations of extortion, falsifying police reports, and stealing from citizens. These 7 Baltimore City police officers arrested, charged with being hardcore criminals. The allegations range from stealing from innocent citizens to robbing drug dealers of cash and guns, some even of selling heroin.
These defendants allegedly were involved in stopping people who had not committed crimes and seizing their money, not only seizing their money, but pocketing it. So these...
My bad. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe they say allegedly. They took money from innocent people too, so that makes it worse. I call them the gang, man. They was the biggest gang in Baltimore City. I call them the Blue Bloods.
They're really simply robberies by people who are wearing police uniforms.
The alleged stealing from city residents was rampant, with amounts stolen ranging from $200 to $200,000. Prosecutors say the corruption included bogus search warrants, filing false police reports, and even putting in for thousands of dollars in overtime while on vacation.
These officers, they're 1930-style gangsters, as far as I'm concerned.
And authorities say there was a widespread cover-up, which involved coaching of each other to give false statements to internal affairs and turning off body cameras at key moments. It all sounds a lot like an episode from HBO's The Wire, the long-running police and drug drama that takes place in Baltimore. In this episode, officers stuffed cash from a raid in their bulletproof vests. This morning, the 7 officers are charged with racketeering. Some of the suspects face up to life in prison, others decades in jail.
The majority of Baltimore City police officers are going to be really pleased today to see these charges brought against people who are accused of betraying their badges, of betraying their trust in the department.
There was a year-long operation in place to take these officers down. They were even wiretapped by the FBI. The U.S. attorney involved is calling this a major abuse of power. In some cases, they would just stop an ordinary citizen, hadn't been accused of doing anything, and they would steal their money from them.
So blatant. Right, yeah. Okay, Lindsay, thanks very much.
Yeah, fam. These police, man, they were serious. They was no joke. But, there was a police detective, a homicide police. He got murdered, right, the day before he was supposed to testify on the ringleader of that gang. I forget his name, but I'm gonna find that clip and I'm about to let you hear it right now. And then I got some more to say. Here we go.
Search for a gunman who killed a Baltimore police officer is entering its 9th day. 18-year police veteran Sean Suter was gunned down in a vacant lot. He was shot the day before he was expected to testify in a high-profile corruption case involving other Baltimore police officers. Chris Van Cleve is in Washington. Chris, good morning. Good morning. Police continue to believe Detective Suter was the victim of a random attack while investigating a murder in a neighborhood prone to violence. But after 9 days in a citywide manhunt, they are yet to name a suspect, and the lack of developments has heightened interest in Suter's grand jury testimony. Baltimore police have asked the FBI to enhance this audio from Detective Sean Suter's final radio call.
It's unintelligible right now. We don't know exactly what he said, but he was clearly in distress.
On Wednesday, police confirmed signs of a struggle were found on Suter's clothing, and the veteran officer was shot in the head at close range with his own weapon. Another revelation came when investigators confirmed Suter was shot the day before he was supposed to testify in a federal racketeering case involving 8 members of an elite Baltimore police unit called the Gun Trace Task Force. They are now facing charges of stealing money, property, and narcotics from civilians over a 2-year period.
The Baltimore Blue Bloods. That's what I call them. Bloods and Crips combined.
Well, I understand the wild possibilities that go through people's minds when we all want answers. I just am determined to keep following the evidence. There's nothing that we won't consider.
The main witness to Suter's murder is his partner. He told police Suter approached a man acting suspicious. Investigators say video shows his partner took cover after hearing gunfire.
We do not know where these shots came from. We have officers in bad locations.
The shooting spawned a citywide manhunt that put a Baltimore neighborhood on lockdown. At the scene of the shooting, some residents are offering their prayers.
He deserved that prayer. The family deserved that prayer. Our city of Baltimore deserved that prayer.
The reward being offered for information about the detective's murder now stands at over $315,000. A funeral for the father of 5 is scheduled for next Wednesday.
That's not it, family. That's more. That's more. Hold tight.
Selling guns back on the streets, lying to judges, and selling drugs are among the many crimes a former Baltimore City police detective says he committed while on the job. He became emotional while on the witness stand today. WJZ investigator Mike Halgren is following the explosive testimony from the federal courthouse. Mike?
Denise, Jamel Rayam cried when he heard his children's voices in the background of a wiretapped call. He says he testified because he wanted to do the right thing, but there are questions about why he was still on the force after a number of past incidents. Former Detective Jamel Rayam admitted to selling guns and drugs and committing armed robberies while on the job for the Baltimore City Police Department. His tenure includes 3 police-involved shootings in 20 months. He lied to Internal Affairs about a theft with a drug-dealing former officer. He was suspended for 2 years, yet returned, and police elevated him to the elite gun trace task force. Rayam wept, describing how the unit chased a car, causing a crash. It was a bad accident, and none of us stopped to render aid and see if anyone was hurt. He even testified fellow detective Mamadou Gondo took a friend to buy a gun used to kill someone. Rayam said since his arrest last year, he's accepted responsibility. Although I was doing so much wrong, it got to a certain point where too much was too much. Lawyers for detectives Marcus Taylor and Daniel Herschel, who are on trial for robbery, overtime fraud, and other charges, painted Rayam as a serial liar. The case has exposed the lack of checks and balances in the BPD. Rapper Young Moose claimed last year that Herschel harassed him and stole money. Moose's lawyer told WJZ it was difficult to get Herschel's records.
It was like trying to pull teeth out of a tiger. I got very little cooperation from the courts. Was not allowed to get to his internal affairs records despite motions to do so.
Herschel's lawyers tried to paint the detective as an outsider in the squad who was even thought of as a possible informant and snitch who never committed crimes of violence. Jurors also heard from Herbert Tate, a man who says Detective Herschel and other officers arrested him without cause, planted drugs on him, and took cash from him. Reporting live at the federal courthouse, Mike Halgren, WJZ.
All right, family. Now, they brought up in this clip the point I really wanted to make, because it was another guy, the ringleader of this Baltimore police gang, right? He was a white guy. And man, this guy, I'm gonna try to find another clip, but he used to carry machetes, man, and stolen guns. And this clip just mentioned something that I was gonna speak about. They say they went to purchase a gun that was used in a murder. Now, the white guy, he got sentenced. I forgot, man. I gotta get this information for you. But he, another police testified that this guy bought trash bags of prescription drugs to him. Now, during the time that Freddie Gray riot went down, they broke into that CVS on Pennsylvania North and took a whole lot of prescription drugs out of there. Now, this white police officer was testified against, said he had 2 trash bags full of prescription drugs to sell on the street. Now, the point I want to make is, after the Freddie Gray incident, riots went down, Baltimore's homicide rate went shot through the ceiling, right? And my point is, man, you can't tell me that them damn policemen ain't behind some of them damn murders, man. You can't tell me. Now, when that detective got shot in his head and I found out it was with his own gun, that shit ain't even sound right to me. And then they had no description on who the guy was that supposedly shot him in the head. And then he was supposed to testify on the corrupt police, so he ends up dead the day before he's supposed to go to court. Come on, man. He's just Baltimore blue bloods, man. These motherfuckers more ruthless than the goddamn Bloods and the Crips. And if you think about it, blue bloods, right? The Crips color is blue, right? And the Bloods color is red. I call them blue bloods. Them bastards is goddamn Bloods and Crips combined. Now I'm gonna try to find this other clip. Hold tight for a second. Okay, family, this clip right here, this guy that they greatest show, he was the ringleader. He was the one running the whole operation, man. It's just so much that this man is involved with, man, that I only can make a 15-minute video, man, but I cannot put all this information into 15 minutes, man. But this man, see, and you wonder why they call them crackers. You wonder why they call them crackers the devil. And listen to it. Check this out.
Indicted Baltimore police officer has reversed his plea in the federal corruption trial that lose.
Yeah, Sergeant Wayne Jenkins has now pleaded guilty for his role in the robbery, extortion, and fraud ring while leading the elite Baltimore Police Department gun unit. ABC 2 News investigative reporter Brian Kubler is here right now with details that we learned in court today. Brian.
Wayne Jenkins not only pleaded guilty to several counts in that original indictment of this corruption case, he also admitted to his role in the planting of evidence in a 2010 case that sent two men to federal prison. Following the lead of his own detectives Gondo, Hendricks, Rayam, Ward, and Sergeant Tom Allers, Wayne Jenkins decided not to fight the federal government and plead guilty. 9 counts total in 2 different indictments. Racketeering, robbery, altering records, and depriving the freedom and liberty of 2 men by planting evidence in a case that sent them to prison.
Anything you want to say on behalf of Penny?
Jenkins' family had nothing to add outside of court today, but his attorney did, expressing that the former sergeant was sorry.
Mr. Jenkins is extremely remorseful. He's been remorseful for a long time, even before these charges were brought.
Yeah, right.
On inside, as Judge Catherine Blake summed up the plea agreement signed by Jenkins, we learned new information about the sergeant who led the corrupt gun unit.
He's sorry, all right. He's sorry he got caught.
Jenkins admits to stealing prescription drugs that were originally looted from pharmacies during the riots. He stole dirt bikes and even copped to planting BB handguns on suspects who were never armed in the first place. When discussing restitution as part of the agreement, the government said it would have to recalculate how much Jenkins owes as it recovered some of the stolen goods, saying in court that the FBI dive team recovered watches from underwater and were able to return them to victims. Further details illuminating the depth of corruption by Jenkins and company that today's plea proves goes back at least as far as 2010. When asked by Judge Blake if the former sergeant had anything else to say before accepting his guilty plea, he said, quote, "No, ma'am, I am ashamed of myself."
He's relieved that today, finally, he was publicly able to accept responsibility for his conduct. Thank you.
Now, Jenkins was the leader of this unit. Many of the detectives that pleaded out before him were prepared to testify. Jenkins' plea may signal his willingness to cooperate with the feds as well in this corruption case, known as Broken Boundaries, continues to widen. Meanwhile, there are just 2 left to stand trial. Detectives Daniel Herschel and Marcus Taylor are scheduled to go before judge and jury later this month. Jenkins' sentencing is now scheduled for April. He faces a max of 30 years.
That's all?